Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. And again, I just wanted to make this video real quick, showing you my Cinestill 800T preset for Lightroom that I created. These are available on my website, but by all means, if you want to visit the blog, which I'll bring up right now, um, if you go to my blog, josephdagostinophotography.com, and you scroll down, you'll see recreating Cinestill 800T for Lightroom. And for those of you that know anything about Cinestill 800T, it's definitely it's a tungsten balanced film which works beautifully at night, low light scenes, street photography, anything where you can get those strong gradations between highlights and shadows. Definitely some lighting sources which will really expose one of the key characteristics of Cinestill 800T, and that's that halo effect around the lights, the halation that you get. If you visit my website, you'll actually see some of the examples on here. But I was able to come up with a preset, or actually three of them, that I offer. And again, if you don't want to do that, you can go through the blog, and I go through everything of how I set up this Cinestill 800T. I'm not going to go over it right now, and I'm not going to show it on this video because it's very intensive. But you can kind of see everything right here, and you can kind of see that look that I'm getting. But if you don't want to go through all that and you want to save yourself the trouble, then head over to my color grades section right here, and you'll see I have a bunch of different color grades available. Mac collection, photojournalistics. I have a lot of presets, but my Cinestill 800T is available right here, and you get the 800T base, the green tones and soft tones, and you get that halation brush included. But what I wanted to do is I kind of just wanted to go over how I use these presets and how I use them in low light and street photography to get that Cinestill 800T look. So let me head over to Lightroom right now, and I will bring you guys with me. And let me bring this down, and I have a series of images right here that I'm going to go through with you guys, so you can see all different lighting scenarios, different tones, different cities actually, different cameras, and this one right here is really color. The color is off on this one. And just to kind of show you how my 800T presets work and how I use them and how you can use them too, if you like this look and this is something that you want to do. So we'll start with this first image here, and let me get myself off the screen so you can still see the full Lightroom panel here. Okay. So we'll start with this first one here, and right off the bat, I'm going to lay my Cinestill 800T base right on top of it. And you can see as soon as I lay that base on, you see the strong greenish blue tones in the highlights, and the shadows start turning that red orangey look, which is reminiscent of Cinestill 800T. Right off the bat, I'm just going to correct this off the hand, because this was shot with a Leica M10 28mm Elmerit lens in Philadelphia. I'm going to bring this down just to make the aspect a little better, and that's basically where we are right now with the preset laid. I may bring down the highlights a little bit because I want to preserve the highlights. I tend to, when I shoot my night photography, I tend to spot meter for the highlights because I want to always protect this. I find it easier to protect the highlights in digital sensors rather than to try to compensate for it later in post, because once you blow a highlight on digital film, digital sensors rather, it's really hard to recover them. Shadows, not so much. You can introduce some noise and color shifting, but for the most part, you can pull shadows in today's sensors. Highlights, it's still kind of difficult. So I always try to underexpose a little bit or expose correctly for my highlights, and that'll yield a better file for me to work with when I'm in Lightroom, especially when I'm trying to overlay my presets. So right off the bat, this was base. I put the base layer of Cinestill on it. I brought down my highlights a little bit. I'm going to bring up my shadows a little bit. I'm going to bring my whites down just a tad, and my blacks I'm going to bring up a little bit, and that gives me that nice look in the shadows, that teal green and even that warm red orangey look in the shadows that I'm looking for. And that's, again, more conducive to Cinestill 800T. Now, the key factor that I want to put in, I'm not going to mess with any of these. If you want to mess with the color shift, you can. I've put in a split tone that gives you this a look, but if you want to warm it up and you want to slide it down to the right, by any means you can. I keep this one around 80, 83, whatever. It's all going to be different on your image as well. I'm going to sharpen this image up a little bit to where I want it to be, and leave it right there. And I'm not going to add a vignette on this because that's going to take away from my shadow area. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to now add that halation brush. So if you purchase my presets, you'll get the brush, and the brush, once installed, will be under your panel right here. You can find it, and if you go to Halation Brush, you'll see that it's all kind of set up the way it is. And the way I like to do this is I'll start with a medium-sized brush, a little bit bigger than the area that I'm trying to cover. So I don't want to cover this whole thing like this. It's going to look ridiculous, but just this line, this sliver of light right here is where I want to go with it. So I'm going to bring this down just about right there, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to just point it over to this side, and it's going to create a nice line. Now it looks a little red, a little strong, and that's okay, because I'm going to now take over here on my panel, I'm going to bring my exposure up, and that's going to give me that nice halation orange effect that I'm kind of trying to mimic for Cinestill 800T. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave this one. I'm not really going to do much else with it. And again, that was a quick edit, a little longer because I'm explaining it, but relatively fast and painless. I may bring this down just a little bit. Yeah, and maybe the highlights down just a little bit. And that would be my my edit for this. So that would be Cinestill 800T base preset, a few shifting, of the panels here in the highlights and tones. And again, the base, these presets are made for you to kind of work the way you want to work with them. By all means, you can bring this up a lot if that's how you want your image to look. I like mine a little bit darker and moody, so I'm going to leave mine right there. Let's go over to this next one. This next one here, again, this is in this is in New York with the Fujifilm X100F. And again, I can use the base preset if I want. It makes it kind of contrasty and strong. I can use my tones, which just more of a softer, gentler fall off between light and shadow. You can see in the shadows down by everybody's feet, it's just kind of a smoother gradation. I don't know that it accurately mimics 800T, but it's just definitely a cool look that I wanted to add in the package. But I'm going to use the green tones, and I like the way green works on this image. It's a little bright for my liking. Some of you may think that this is perfect, and that's all well and good. For me, I'm going to bring this down about almost a stop. Yeah, I'm going to bring it down one. Protect these highlights right here and get more detail in the shadows and in this reflection and the scale. And obviously you can dodge and burn and do whatever you want to do with it. I may bring up the shadows a little bit in this just to give me a little bit more room on the sidewalk, and maybe bring up the blacks just a little. No, I'm not going to bring up the blacks. I'm going to leave them where they are, maybe even bring them down just a little bit. And now I'm going to add my brush again. And I'm going to go here, and here, and then here. And now, as anything, it gets smaller as I go away. So I'm going to bring my brush down a little bit, size-wise. Bring that here, and do this last one right here. And then I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit to see how I like it. And I think I like it right there. I might actually even bring my highlights in my overall base panel. Close the brush down, and I might actually bring the exposure down a little bit and actually bring the highlights down a little bit and give me something like that. So that would be where I would finish up with this image. This next image here was taken in Philadelphia, and this was again with a Leica M10. 28mm lens. And what I like about this image is I like this single subject right here with this nice highlighted area on the sidewalk falling off into different tones and colors and things of that such. Just a, easy image in the city. I'm actually going to bring the crop down a little bit on this so he's more centered in my frame. I'm going to go right there, and I'm going to lay on this one. I can do the base Cinestill. It's a little strong. Green could work too, but I'm not really liking. There's not too much. If I lay green, there's not too much of a difference between these highlights and shadows here. But what I can do is soft tones or the tones, and I really like this one. And again, that's one click right off the bat. Again, I protected the highlights when I shot. I metered for this area right here, or maybe even my subject, his sweatshirt, and I kind of just pulled it off, and that's kind of where I left it. I don't know that I would do much more to this image. I kind of really like the way it is right now. I can bring the highlights down maybe a little bit. I'm going to leave them right where they are. I like it better. Maybe bring my whites down a little bit, and I might bring my blacks up just a little bit to give me more of that exposure in the shadows. And I'm going to leave that one exactly where it is. But again, that's basically a one-click edit with a few tweaks in the exposure basic panel, and you're off and running. This next one here is really cool. This one looks really fun with the preset. This is a shot in New York City with an X100F. This was at, you can see 1/80th of a second, f2.2 at ISO 1250. This one looks good with the base preset laid on it. And it's a little blue for my liking right now, so I'm actually going to, I'm going to bring down the exposure just a little bit. Right there. I'm going to bring my highlights down a little bit. I'm going to bring my shadows up and leave everything else where it is right now. I don't think I want to mess with my split toning at all. Let me see. Now, if I start going this way, it starts getting way too warm. If I go this way, it's way too blue. So I like it right around 83 is good for me. That's fine. I'm going to pick my brush again. And now this one, again, I have these nice. And what you're seeing here is you can see my brush and the size of the light. I want it to overtake the size of the light. I don't want it to be, way too big, but I want it to be enough to cover the entire light. Click and shift and then click over. And then I'm going to do the same one for this one. And this is just going to get kind of redundant here because I'm just going to go all the way down. I'm going to make the brush a little smaller. Again, guys, I don't go off anything, other than feel, the way I like an image, the way I want to go. I don't always make sure that everything is exactly, color accurate. I want the look that I want, and I just keep pushing the file until I get to where I want to go and hope for the best and hope that it doesn't fall apart and go from there. So that was the Cinestill laid. I'm going to bring this up a little bit again to get that nice glow right about here. And then what I'm going to do with this one actually is I'm going to bring my highlights down because I don't want to blow this area out by the this vendor stand here. I want to, I want to keep that. Bring this down. If I want, I really can go into, maybe I'll go into another brush here just to make this a little bit better. I'll dodge, and I'll just dodge these girls right here. Bring them up just a little bit, and maybe just bring my sidewalk, my walkway here just a little bit, just to kind of give me a little something. Bring that exposure down just a little bit on that brush, and I'm going to bring my shadows up just a little bit, and that's where I'm going to leave this one. So again, a little bit more work on the file, but again, getting that key element of Cinestill 800T with this brush and getting that halation on the highlights is really going to seal the deal when you're trying to mimic an 800T look. Let's go to this other one here. Now this one here, right off the bat, the file is just totally wrong. It's a disaster. These lights play havoc on the sensor. It didn't even look like this. It was more of an orangey look, straight out. This again, like an M10, I'm going to correct this file real quick. I'm going to just fix my angles. I'm a big stickler for angles being off and horizons being off, but I'll leave it like this. And what I'm going to do, you'll see if I throw the base layer right on top of it, it's going to go green. It goes horrible. Now it's like, oh my God, what are you going to do with this, right? So take your white balance and bring it over to something that you know is going to be more white, and we're going to even out the exposure, and that's exactly where I want to be. I have my Cinestill look. I have these nice teal greens, teal green blues. I might actually even push this a little bit green on the file right there. I'm going to leave everything else alone. I'm going to bring my highlights down, bring my shadows up a little bit, bring my blacks. I'm going to bring my blacks even, bring my whites down just a little. Everything else I'm going to leave the same. I'm going to sharpen it up, bring it all the way up, and then I'm going to see where I'm at right about here. I'm actually going to add some grain to this, so I'm going to bring my grain level up. Again, this is all feel for where you guys want to go. I like my grains right around 37, 40, 50 is fine for this. And now I'm going to add my brush again. I'm going to go into halation, and again, I know it's kind of fast, and bear with me, but one, and you'll see that I'm overtaking the entire light. And that's basically it. Now, if you don't want to do that and you want to go into something a little more involved, I'll exit out of here. And let me go into a 1-to-1 on this. Actually, going to even go closer. I'm going to go 3-to-1 just on this file. I know it gets a little grainy and noisy, but if you really want to get like super accurate, and you can now do the shift technique here and go 4 angles. Again, it's up to you if it's important or not, but you know, now you get more of a diamond shape look on these lights, which would be more conducive of, you know, what the actual file look like. I don't know that it's that important, but if you're really a stickler for things, you can do that. And bring it back to the original. Boom. Go back into the normal, and you can see it kind of changes it up a little bit. And then what I'll do is I will bring up my exposure on this to get a nice orangey halation effect. I can even add it to this back here if you want to. This light, I don't know that it's going to do much, but let's check it out. Here, point down and over. And again, just kind of leaving that where it is. And that would be for this one. Maybe I'll bring the overall scene down just a little bit. No, too dark. Right there. And that would be my edit out for this one. Again, quick and easy. This last image here is, again, right off the bat, I'm going to get rid of this white car because it does nothing for the scene. Just plays havoc on the overall look. I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. Again, I don't like my angles being off. And I'm going to start with this file right off the bat. I can go with tones. It looks nice. It's just a little soft. I don't care for the green too much on this one. I'm going to use my base again. And right off the bat, I'm going to bring the highlights down just a tad. And I'm going to go right into my brush. And I'm going to lay the halation down on these. Give me that nice glow on the highlights here. And right from that, I'm going to bring them up just a little bit and close out the brush panel. bring these highlights down. I'm going to bring the overall scene down a little bit and bring the whites down just a tad, and I'll bring the blacks up a little bit. And what I want to do now, just to kind of finish this one off, I'm actually going to go into a dodge brush. And, you know, again, you can get creative. It's all up to you. And I'm just going to highlight some of these areas right here, kind of just to pump them up a little bit more. And maybe I'll drag my brush down this way, and I'll drag it down this way a little bit, just to give me more of a separation between light and dark. Maybe I'll bring that down a little bit, and I'll bring the shadows up of those a little bit. And overall scene, bring down just a little bit. And that would be my Cinestill 800T look for this image here. All right. So at the end, you know, we have a couple different looks, all using the preset. Different presets that I have, the base layer, the normal, the green tint. Now we have a soft brush, a soft tint rather, and you know, just using different techniques in order to edit out the files the way I like them. But again, these are all using the Cinestill 800T preset. So again, I hope you guys found that helpful. The Cinestill 800T sets, that is available on my website right now. Like I said, you get the 3 presets, you get the Halation Brush included. The Halation Brush doesn't work well with Lightroom Creative Cloud because you cannot import brushes. You'd have to create your own brush, I think, almost every time to do it. So Lightroom Classic, like the version you see here, you definitely can use that Halation Brush and download them. But again, they're available right now, and as a bonus, if you join my email list on my website, josephagostinophotography.com, we're giving away 1 free preset from one of the other packs. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is a popular one, and it definitely gets a lot of likes. But once you sign up, you'll get a welcome email, and it will have a download link for a free preset. If that interests you, please head over to the website and check that out. I greatly appreciate it. As always, please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I really want to do more editing videos for you guys. And that'll be it for this one. Thanks for sticking with me and checking out these presets. I'll see you on the next one.